What is happening, ladies and germs? It's your boys, Steve Straza, Sean McLaughlin. How's everybody doing? This is the Flow Show. Straza, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Are you doing great? That's great to hear. All right.
Yeah, yeah, I am. Totally.
So this is the Options Flow Show. This is where we talk about we start with unusual options activities, see if that leads us down the path into some interesting trades. Straz always throws curveballs at me. This is all improvised. I'm seeing stuff here for the first time, and we're seeing if we can craft some options trades. So Straza, what is burning a hole in your pocket today?
You know what's burning a hole in my brain? The fact that all of the bearish flow in this week's table is the stuff I want to buy. It tends to happen that way, right? Because of the reversionary I guess character of a lot of these options transactions. So the Qs, bearish flow, home builders, bearish flow, Palantir. They all look great. All areas that we've been buying and leaning on, whether it's home builders, growth stocks, or specific growth stocks like Palantir, to me, that just means that people probably thought, or investors thought, that the market was a little bit overcooked, and they wanted to bet on some of these leaders, really kind of pulling back a little bit, probably on a very short-term time frame, right? And if you look at the expirations, that makes sense. So one was just already expired last week. The next one is June monthlies. That's home builders. And then we have, are those the monthlies? July 21st? A little late, right?
That is the month, yes.
Okay, so then the July 21st in Palantir, those are the best charts on this list. So I thought that was interesting.
You know, somebody smarter than me was out on Twitter last night saying, talking about how what we're seeing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is, in some ways, perhaps a leading indicator of the Nasdaq being a little bit overcooked, because the Nasdaq and crypto kind of had traded in lockstep for a little while recently, but in the last 4 or 5 months, this AI stuff has kind of separated the Nasdaq from cryptos, but now that we're seeing cryptos really starting to move lower, it's like, is that the canary in the coal mine that says the Nasdaq's overcooked and ready to come back?
But hold on, because I fell into this trap just before, and let's check something. Because JC and I were just doing a show, bottom of the hour, or last 2 o'clock, and I came in with a bunch of charts about how crypto's weak today, and he was like, "Hey, look at Bitcoin, and look at it right now, trading on highs of the day, up 4%, undoing the top that it looked very much like had completed yesterday." You see this?
Yeah, there's been quite a rebound in a lot of these stocks. In fact, some stocks that we are currently playing because of Bitcoin. Here's Mara, M-A-R-A, Marathon Digital. It was looking pretty ugly this morning at the open, but man, it's come back pretty good. What is it? MicroStrategy, MSTR, same thing, right? Like it was looking.
Zoom in on this daily candle. This is what we call a bullish engulfing, and it doesn't get better. Look at that.
That's a bullish engulfing. That's textbook bullish engulfing.
Yeah, you know what makes it textbook too? You got the volume profile, more volume than yesterday, telling you the bulls are really in control and buyers are, on top of this.
Things are coming back, and so maybe what the narrative that I was reading about yesterday about crypto signaling that the Nasdaq is overcooked. Maybe crypto's saying, no, wait a second, we're behind here, we're going to catch up, and maybe that's just I don't know. I'm just making stuff up here, Straza. I am no expert when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Listen, it's a great point. Like, if anything, I would look at crypto as a subsector or like an industry group of the broader tech sector. So just like we might look at something like internet stocks or computer hardware and say there's some catching up here to do for this industry group with the rest of tech, we could have said that about crypto as a subgroup of tech, right? What's more interesting to me about the price action today, though, is think about what was driving prices lower. It was the SEC actions against the two biggest crypto brokers in the world, Coinbase and Binance. Their charts are not coming back, right? I mean, maybe Binance up like 2% today, taking back a little. Coinbase is still down 12, 13%, while Bitcoin is turning positive, really undoing all that damage. Maybe this is the market reminding us that, hey, the government can outlaw Coinbase or Binance, right, and shut those companies down, or it can turn off the on and off ramps in the bank or the crypto space, like it did with Signature Bank and Silvergate, right? But it can't close Bitcoin. It can't shut down Bitcoin, right? So I think you're kind of seeing that price action where I think you'll continue to see these brokers, whether it's Binance or Coinbase, under pressure because they're fighting with the government. But Bitcoin itself is a totally separate animal. I think that's
Well, if U.S. regulators shut down the venues for U.S. customers to trade Bitcoin, then where do we trade it? How do we get in or out of our positions?
absolutely, and that's very true. But I think the market will probably continue to thrive, and people will, subvert whatever the U.S. government's trying to do.
So we're all going to become illegal agents, so subverting the U.S. government to trade our Bitcoin.
I don't have a bank account in Grand Cayman now, but if the SEC keeps doing what it's doing, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, hello to all the SEC regulators who are watching this show now. Steve Straz is the guy you're looking for, not me.
We have great disclaimers here. I'm not worried.
All right, so let's get back to the things we can trade and things we don't need to worry about disappearing on us. So let's look at some of these options flow. One thing that's just kind of standing out to me because it appears to be a strange situation. So what's going on there in Frontier Communications? We have unusual options activity on the calls as well as the puts. What's going on there? Do you see that on May 26th?
You would know more than me.
So
Yeah.
it looks like somebody got aggressive and bought the 15 calls expiring in July.
And then they're going out further, selling the puts in October.
And selling the puts in October. Yeah, very, very straight and lopsided too. I mean, they're doing way more puts than they are calls.
Is
Not
that
way
some
more,
sort
but
of strategy? That's not some sort of calendar, or is that a thing?
in the parlance of an options trader, they might call that a diagonal spread of some kind. Let's see, but they sold the puts in October. They bought the calls in July and August. Wait, am I reading this right? Yeah, no, July. Hold on. I'm sorry. They bought the calls in July, sold the puts in October. Okay, so it's in a strange way, it's kind of like well, I'm confused here. Folks, remember, this is the first time I'm seeing this stuff.
A lot more volume in the puts too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, 4 times as much volume in the puts. I mean, individually, these are listed as a bullish trade in the puts because they're short the puts. It's a bullish trade in the calls because they're long the calls. But those strikes are so. Where's that stock trading right now? Is it trading at $15?
Well on its way to zero. Yeah.
So it's trading at $15. So this is a bullish bet. Strange. That's a strange play. I want.
So this is like a regional. While you're figuring that out, this is like a regional telecom provider in the Northeast. I think it might even be like it's Connecticut, really. We all have to deal with this Frontier Communications. They're god awful, absolutely terrible. So this is kind of like the same space as AT&T and Verizon, just worse. And you can see it in the stock chart. I mean, if you want to pull it up, Sean, FYBR, this thing's been going straight lower all year. I don't know how these businesses are so bad. They sell, they charge consumers monthly for internet or television services, and they just can't seem to figure it out. I don't know what's wrong with this whole space, but anything that's telecom these days is a disaster. This is just the latest example.
Yeah. So this is a strange trade because if FYBR trades above 15, let's say by July expiration, it may make money on those calls, but it'll still be holding those short puts that they'll be fully exposed on any sell-off. So this is we're gonna have to table this one and do a little bit more research. This is an interesting trade. Throwing me for a loop, that's for sure. This is the first time you've totally stumped me on this show, by the way. For any first-time watchers, I'm usually not this idiotic, but this is an unusual one.
They're betting on some sort of tradable low here, right? We know that much. It's not a bear.
Yes, for sure.
I brought along.
Somebody knows something. Maybe somebody knows something here.
Let's talk about PayPal. So
Let's talk about it.
this one, show my screen, Izzy, Giancarlo, whoever's over there. This one doesn't look like the other ones we've been buying, right, Sean? It's not a beautiful base. I can't tell you the 200-day moving average is flattening and curling.
This is not a chart I would like to buy, just for the record.
Is it a chart you would like to sell, though?
You know, I might not sell it right here, but if it traded back up to that resistance at 66, let's call it, and if it just kind of paused there, I mean, I guess we're almost there now, but if it were to trade up to around 66 and pause and show no signs of additional strength, that might really tempt me to want to get short.
Right. And that makes sense, right? That's probably the textbook answer. But when we consider what's going on in the broader market, a lot of these lagging stocks or lagging groups, whether it's banks, speculative growth stuff, small caps, stocks like PayPal or Zoom, right? Or any of these beat up growth stocks that didn't really catch a bid earlier this year, they're starting to work now. They're catching that rotation in a big way. And there could be some monster mean reversion moves here. So I don't hate these setups. They're not my preferred setups. I will not be out buying PayPal, on some squeeze above this level, but I could very much see this trade working. I think it's lower probability, probably hits the target faster in a case where it works, and it's a really good risk reward. We know where we're at. We have a clean level. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. And I think that's what these options market participants were doing. They went out to August betting on $75, 75 strike calls. They're just looking for a nice little ramp up and squeeze higher back into this range. And that trade will pay pretty nicely. Am I wrong?
Yeah, look, if you're a short-term trader, short to intermediate term, and by that I mean like you have a no more than 2 or 3 month outlook, then this could be a tradable situation where you could trade up back into that range of that 75 to 80 area. But longer term, I don't like it. I wouldn't want to invest a whole lot of capital here until we see some kind of, I don't know. I would need more base than what we got right there that we've seen since May.
It's a squeeze trade, right? We would end up looking at something like this, circling it and saying something like, oops, right? Called a bull hook or a bear trap. If we do, God forbid, get back above those pivot lows, you definitely don't want to be short this. And I would imagine this one goes on to hit our target if and when it does, because it would start to shape up and look like some of those other bases, right? Which means you would get a nice run up back towards.
Forgive me if you mentioned this, but if you did, I missed it. Do we know what the short interest is in this stock?
I could check it. I don't think it's very high though.
Okay. If it was high, that would make me a little bit more, inclined to perhaps consider taking a bullish, short-term position in this trade. Because, I do like me a good short squeeze, Straza. We haven't talked about a good short squeeze in a while, but I do like me those. Yeah,
the short interest really isn't there for PayPal. About 2 days to cover. Short interest about 26.
Well, let's at least leave the audience with a trade idea in PayPal. If you do like this, if you want to wait in, because I do like what you said about, hey, look, we know where we're wrong pretty quickly. We got a level there. Let's call it 59 or 60. Let's just call it 60 for a nice round number. If PayPal loses $60 a share, you got no reason holding a long position in this stock. So if you wanted to buy something, I mean,
even better, Sean, what we would do with this setup, we wouldn't even buy. We'd buy it on strength only, right? Rather than get out at 60, I would buy it on strength above 66.50 and then put a real tight stop on it there.
Right. That's the level I was watching originally. Yeah. I mean, if you're willing to micromanage the trade and wait till it gets above 66.50, yes, you could do it as Straza said, super micromanage it. But if you wanted to get in now, if this little, you can't ignore the fact that there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive green days in PayPal. If that's all the confirmation you need to get long. Those August 75s, let's go back to where we saw the unusual options activity to begin with. Those August 75s are reasonably priced. I mean, at $1.45, implied volatility is very low right now. That's a clean, easy way to play this, and at least you're you're jumping in with where the volume is, right? We got a lot of open interest here, thanks to the active player here. If I was forced to make a trade here, I like these August 75 calls. We don't always like the actual instrument that was traded when we look at this unusual options activity, but in this case, I think I would buy those August 75s. They have a 25 delta, which is right in my sweet spot strategy. We talk about this a lot. When I'm buying just straight calls, I love to buy 25 delta calls because I believe, in my mind, they give me the right mixture of leverage if I get it right, and affordability and cheap cost. Not much to lose if I get it wrong. So, hey, if you want to play along with somebody who knows something. The August 75s do seem like a good trade to make.
The strike there is more than reasonable, too.
Yeah.
Looking out 2 months in a stock like PayPal, this thing's down 80%, while some of its large cap growth peers are heading back to new all-time highs, right? So either this thing is going to be significantly repriced, or it's got a ton of catching up to do. If, God forbid, we do start, hooking higher above this level, 75 is easy, I would think. So,
but I got to be honest with you, Strauss. Ever since Venmo came into my life, I haven't used PayPal ever since. So, I mean, how is PayPal even competing with Venmo?
They own it.
Do they? Shows what I know, if that's true. I thought they were competitors.
Hold on. Yeah, owned by PayPal since 2013. Yeah, that's happening. Yeah, dude. And so the other one, just fun. We'll do fun facts here, right? Fundamental. Cash App, which is another big one. They're kind of in trouble. They got to be careful. Owned by Square. So these guys, that's their business.
Oh, they're all swimming in the same pond, I see. All right. Okay. PayPal owns Venmo. I had no idea. This is blowing my mind. Wow.
Venmo's great, and I'm with you. And
I was a very late adopter to Venmo. I feel like everyone in the world had it before I did, and I begrudgingly finally downloaded the app. And now that I've been using it, I'm just like, where's this been all my life? This thing's great.
I use it when I go to the barber, massages, whatever. Venmo as
my wife. For those who don't know, I have a nearly 9-year-old son, and my son's involved in all kinds of things like birthday parties and sporting. He plays baseball, soccer, everything, and all the wives here in my little community have this whole cottage industry of Venmo. And we kind of joke, like everybody puts money into Venmo and then it never leaves because they just pass the money around to each other every time like something happens, where there's a birthday party or a dinner or something. Like that money goes into Venmo and it just stays there. And that's probably a great business model for Venmo, right? They're earning the float on all that money. So they're not paying anybody interest on that money that's in there.
That's exactly what they want to happen. Yeah. They don't want you to cash it out for sure. So that's it. PayPal. Look, we're seeing a number of setups like this just this week start to hook higher in some of the worst looking stocks. That's the only reason why I'm here talking about this. You're right, Sean. It's not an optimal setup. It's not the kind of setup that we're out here talking about every day. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if we look back in a few weeks and go, wow, that worked great.
Well, let's leave the viewers with this thought. Look, this PayPal chart is not our favorite chart, but if you wanted to play it, playing it with those August 75 calls does not feel like a bad play to me. It feels like a really good play for a poor setup. Does that make sense? Poor setup, great way to play it if you like it.
Let me ask a seemingly unintelligent question, right? As somebody who doesn't have a position in PayPal but would rather buy it higher if and when it is, right? Like I would buy a base breakout in PayPal if we ever got it. Would it make sense to buy the calls for now, and then you have that optionality of exercising them into stock and taking that position in the common later on? Is that something that maybe somebody might do?
I mean, you could. I mean, you're asking the wrong guy, right? Like I don't take positions in stock, at least speculative positions like that. If I do, it's more for an investment. But look, if PayPal or any stock for that matter is a stock that you would like to own at some point in the future, it's just, you're very bullish on the company, you like the fundamentals, maybe you're an employee of the company, whatever the case may be. If you want to be an owner of that stock, but you just think it's kind of a dicey proposition to buy it right now because it has an ugly chart like this PayPal chart, Yeah, you could buy out of the money calls and just risk a very little bit of money that gives you control of that stock if in fact it does rise higher. That way you don't miss your entry at a good price, right? Like I could be somebody who says, okay, PayPal, I'm not convinced unless it gets to $80 a share, right? Like it's a no play for me unless it gets to 80. Well, okay, great. I could go into like say January options, give myself some time. Let's bring up the options chain. I could look at the January 80s, and they're trading at about 330. So not cheap, but if I wanted to buy 100 shares of PayPal, I'm only risking $330 of real money to control 100 shares of stock from now until January that I could buy at any time if I wanted to. Again, it's not something I do, Straza, but you could. Makes sense.
I don't hate that. In a situation where the stock looks like this, right? I don't hate that.
It's kind of like, people who own stock will buy puts to protect their position, right? Because they're worried about losing money. Well, in this situation, you'd be buying calls, protecting yourself against missing an opportunity. If this case, this thing rips or has a gap higher or who knows, right?
Like that. Yeah. You're speaking my language. This is something I could get into.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Flow Show. You saw Sean get completely stumped on a weird options trade. You saw Sean learn that Venmo is owned by PayPal. In fact, it's been owned by PayPal for 9 years. And I hear this entire time I thought they were competitors, and I used to shit on PayPal for losing the game to Venmo. Who has the last laugh now? PayPal does. Straza, thanks for fumbling through this with me today. I'll bring my A game next week, I promise.
Let us worry about the other stuff. You worry about the options. That's it. That's why this thing works.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again next week. By the way, next week starting, we'll be moving this to Mondays. That's going to be our new show time. Same time, 3:00 Eastern, starting on Mondays next week. We're going to try to make that our regular time slot. So we'll see you next Monday.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody.